I really don't want to upset you, but as far as I can see, the Golgari don't care whether you're alive, dead, undead, or really, really dead. We should find out more about them.
The Golgari Swarm is the guild that embodies both green and black mana, and that means that the guild is about life and death at the same time. That's a fairly sinister concept, but not inherently evil per se. The Golgari have an important function in Ravnica. They take care of the dead in their own way, and they provide food for the poor. What is that food made of? Best not to ask. It's Golgari business, and most Golgari business takes place in the Undercity, in caves and caverns and sewers and abandoned areas where the Golgari can grow and spread in their own special way. There's a sort of dark majesty in the guild. The Golgari believe their function to be important, and they are less interested in the affairs of other guilds than some other guilds are. They want to be left alone. They want to be left in the dark. And they are always happy to grow and spread further.
Golgari, you're dealing with something like life that is already dead. You're dealing with rot farms. You're dealing with corpses that are floating in the water, in the sewers. And they're taking that and mulching it up and creating new life out of it. And then taking the parts that are usable, harvesting them, and making armor out of dead bug plates and all that kind of stuff.
If there's any mechanic from the original Ravnica block that people have heard of that hadn't played that block, it has to be Dredge. The Golgari mechanic, highlighted by Golgari Grave Troll, allows you to redraw cards out of your graveyard over and over again, eventually milling yourself and giving you access to every single card in your deck. This mechanic is incredibly powerful, still played today in Legacy, Vintage, Modern, all the old formats. It is one of the most powerful mechanics we've ever made.
One of the biggest challenges of the original Ravnica was finding the keyword mechanic for the Golgari. We knew that the graveyard was where we wanted to go because green and black's overlap is in the graveyard. They're the two colors that care most about the graveyard. And so Dredge was like the 40th attempt to find a mechanic. And obviously, for those who know a little bit about history, Dredge was the craziest, most broken mechanic in Ravnica block. But we did know we wanted the graveyard. And so the tricky part was how to make the graveyard relevant, but not inherently broken, because as Dredge taught us, the graveyard's a resource that kind of comes for free, and that you have to be careful about it because you can't just kind of give things away.
Scavenge was the second mechanic that we had really solidified in design, the first being Populate, which we knew we were really happy with. The idea was that we wanted each one of the Return to Ravnica mechanics to mesh well, at least in principle, with the original Ravnica mechanics. So the idea was that, okay, if you had a deck that you remember from Ravnica, it was a Dredge deck, obviously you'd want your Golgari mechanic to make use of the graveyard in some way. We had the idea of creatures being able to be resources in your graveyard, and we played around a lot with that. Eventually what we realized is that if Celestia was the guild that went wide, as in like made a big army full of smaller creatures and killed you that way, we wanted Golgari to go tall, so make like big single threats so that we could diversify the identities of the two green guilds in the set.
If you look at Deadbridge Goliath, it's 6 mana to scavenge, which looks like a lot. But let's think about how this works in a game. On turn 1, you play some creature that's going to accelerate your mana. And on turn 3, you cast your 5/5. Your opponent usually either kills your 5/5 or you're going to win with it. So let's say, it'd be great if you won the game, but your opponent kills it. The game goes on for a few turns, you play out your hand, and now your hand's empty. You have nothing to do with your mana. You tap 6, put 5+1/+1 counters on your mana creature and attack with it. And now you've got a 6/6 maybe to win the game.
So for Golgari, we have them using the scavenge mechanic, which I designed, where you can use your dead creatures to make your living creatures stronger. And my favorite card in that space is Slitherhead, this cute little 1-drop that for no mana from your graveyard, you can make something else stronger. It's actually my favorite card in the whole set.
Golgari guild leadership is a little more unstable than the average guild. When the first Ravnica block took place, the first guild master were the Sisters of Stone Death. They were supplanted by an elf woman named Savra, who was the guild master for most of the first Ravnica story. Savra was in cahoots with Sadek. Sadek betrayed her and killed her. And the current Golgari guild master is Savra's brother Gerard. Although it's not exactly Gerard, because Gerard was also killed and is now an elf lich who leads the guild with his council of dark advisors, which he calls the Celia.
With the cycle of generals, we really wanted each creature to embody kind of the heart of a guild. Gerard plays into the strategy of scavenge and the entire mechanic. He's reliant upon your graveyard. He wants you to load up your graveyard to make him bigger. But then once you do that, you can scavenge onto your other creatures, which makes his second ability more powerful. But then when you're scavenging, you make his first ability, you make him smaller. And then if you want him to come back, then you're sacrificing your swamps and forest, which makes it harder to scavenge. So some of the things he does really enhance what the guild is doing with their mechanic. Some of the things really take it away, and it's the give and take that is all about what Golgari is about. Using life to fuel death, using death to fuel life. I mean, he literally is the circle of life on a Magic card.
My darkness, my horde, my guild, Golgari. Won't you join us?